The tilt is real.
Tilt is real.
This is when the tilt is real.
Welcome to another episode of the Tilt is Real Fantasy Podcast. Coming to you live from the chef's table, here are your hosts, James Crease and Juan Pena. Let's go.
Welcome in to another episode of the Tilt is Real Fantasy Football Podcast. It is Wednesday, February 10th, and we are live here at a makeshift chef's table, Juan.
We're in the study, Chef.
It's the study.
It's the study.
Unfortunately, we are, well, no, not unfortunately. Fortunately,
yeah.
we are in construction of a brand new studio for the Tilt is Real Fantasy Football Podcast. And yeah, so we're going to be taking a little time in the off season, hanging out in the study. We've got a nice little book collection behind us.
Beautiful book collection.
World maps.
Yeah.
Indeed.
But yeah, we're going to have some fun with it. This is episode 40, by the way, gentlemen. And join with me, as always, Mr. Juan Carlos Pena.
What's going on, Chef? Any day we get to talk about fantasy football is a great day. We're doing it in the study, and it makes sense because we're doing case studies in here later with Corey Spela as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be kind of cool.
And Mr. John Swanson. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, boys? It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Love that.
And you guys are looking pretty good, man. Looking good in that study. I would say that it was the chef with the podcast in the study. That's the end of the clue game.
Is that who did it?
And we got some people joining in
And
the
the
chat.
lovely-
What's going on? Justin, shout out to
What's
Justin.
up, Justin? What's
Welcome
going
back,
on,
Justin.
man? That might be the
Yeah.
fastest anybody's ever tuned in
I love it.
right away.
He's always on point, man.
Yeah.
Shout
I
out
know,
to
man.
Justin.
I love
Always on point. When he's available and we're
I love
on,
him.
he jumps right on. And we appreciate that,
My
guys.
man's in there. We also appreciate the lovely wife.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
Lovely
shout out to
Mrs.
the
Reese.
wifey. Yes, and this is her study, to be honest. But the tilt is taking over.
Temporarily, Allie. Don't get too mad.
Temporary coup.
It's an almost fair trade. But yeah, man, we have a jam-packed show today. First and foremost, congratulations to all you Bucks fans out there. For the rest of us, it was a tough Super Bowl to get by, man. 31-9. It was not the game we were expecting. Kind of what the game that Juan predicted, at least one side of it. And yeah, so welcome to the official NFL offseason, guys.
I predicted it.
The season's starting. Yeah, you did too,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Swanson. You had 29,
Yeah.
27, something like that, right?
I mean, I had Bucks though.
Yeah.
I just knew the Bucks were gonna do it. But
There may not be a lot of live football to watch, but hey, there's still plenty to talk about for fantasy football, and that's
Sure
why
is.
we're here. Last week, we discussed some of our Senior Bowl impressions and our Super Bowl predictions. We had a lot of fun with that, building
We
the
did.
DFS roster, man.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was a good time.
Man, Gronk went off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he did. And Tom Brady in the captain chair did pretty well
Yeah,
as well.
That too.
But this week we will tilt into our top 12 positional finishes from the 2020 fantasy season and give some insight on whether or not we believe they will stay on top. There's a lot of movement going around the league right now, Juan, and
Tons.
it's hard to keep track of, really.
It is. It's every day a new offensive coordinator is hired. There's a trade rumor. There's an offer being reported. Someone leaks information about a guy that's going to be moving, whether it's Carson Wentz, who we've seen rumored to be moving around, but even Russell Wilson, is having a little bit of
crazy, right?
little turmoil. You never know. Deshaun Watson obviously is going to be the big coup for somebody this offseason if they can get him out of Houston, but every day something else. So there is no offseason. Like you keep saying it's the offseason, but I don't feel it.
Yeah, I think it's just the time from where teams can't pick up players
Right.
until they can pick up players in March.
Yep.
And that date, I believe, is March 17th this year. So that's the free agent window. I'm sure there's already some determined contracts going on. I see that
For sure.
with a little bit of the free agents that were already off there or on practice squads last year that are eligible to get picked up for pre-contracts, which is, I don't know, I guess it's not tampering, but it's kind of tampering, but it's not tampering.
But it's kind of tampering.
Yeah, it's a little tampering. But anyway,
It is, but it isn't, but it is.
Feels like it.
enough of the tampering. Let's get right into the news.
It's the weekly reel. presented by The Tilt is Real. It's the weekly reel. Let me hear the news.
And we start off with some great news for running back Leonard Fournette. The Bucs say Mike Garofalo from the NFL Network reports that the Bucs would like to have Fournette back in 2021. Juan.
Yeah, it's going to be about the money. You know, whether or not the money's right, whether or not he wants a lot more than what was it, $5 million that he got for this season to play for this one season. So if he wants more money, it might be out there for him. It's somebody out there, the Jets with a lot of money under the cap, like a lot of teams that might go after a Leonard Fournette, especially since he played so well down the stretch. Yeah,
he's an unrestricted free agent. He totaled 135 yards against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And we're beginning to see this recipe for the Super Bowl repeat itself a little bit. Veteran running back mixed in with a little bit of youth, a great quarterback, gunslinger, decision maker behind the center, and then some weapons down the field. That's what wins you the Super Bowl, plus obviously a great defense.
Yeah, that O-line too should get a lot of credit because moving the Chiefs around and at will, 3 touchdowns by Brady in the first half, it just looked like 2 completely different teams. Like it wasn't even fair. That O-line and Tristan Wirfs had the highest score, with the second highest grade according to Pro Football Focus by any offensive player in the Super Bowl. So like he played out of his mind and was able to keep Brady upright, and that was the recipe, and they won that game. Where you saw the Chiefs weren't able to do that, and Mahomes was scrambling for his life, and poor dude, like he was making throws.
He's making some throws
like vertical, you know what I mean?
Those shortstop throws. Oh my goodness, man!
That's exactly what it is. It is shortstop throws. It's throwing off the wrong foot, throwing off balance. He looked like Jeter throwing the ball. And, but the guy at first base wasn't catching it. And that's the problem.
Yeah, that is the problem. That was the problem because he made some amazing throws, man, after running around for like 15 minutes. And then, they just weren't, they weren't getting done on the other side.
He ran for something like 495 yards in scrambles. And that's the most by a quarterback in Super Bowl history and probably in NFL history. Because,
probably,
that's ridiculous. 5 football fields you had to run around and scramble. That's how much under duress he was during that game. So that's what I saw. I saw that front 4 was going to get home. That front 5 was going to get home. And it became cliche because everybody kept saying it. But when you're down two tackles, it's just too much to overcome. And you're starting guard from the beginning of the year, and your other guard's playing tackle now. Like, it's a lot to overcome.
It really is. And not for nothing, playing with turf toe is not an easy thing to do either. It's a funny sounding name. But it's not a turf toe. Yeah, it's a funny sounding injury. But when you look in, it's not an easy injury to overcome. So all those factors playing together really just didn't bode well for the Chiefs, and that's kind of what happened. But on the other side of the ball too, not to take anything away from the Bucs, because their defense was unbelievable. They were making it happen. Brady was doing his thing. It was almost it wasn't what you expected. It was what you expected from the Bucs, but it was nothing what you expected from the Chiefs.
Yeah, they only got those 3 field goals, and that's what hindered their progress. They weren't able to put the ball in the end zone. They didn't go for it a couple times, which is a little different for them. And maybe it had to do with that. And not to correct you, but Mahomes is going to undergo surgery, and he's going to repair a torn plantar plate in his foot. And
isn't that what that is?
It's part of the turf toe.
Yeah, part of the.
There's certain degrees of turf toe actually.
Oh, it's part of the turf toe designation. I did not know that. That's cool. Now I know. That's awesome.
So they're saying he's going to be off. Ian Rappaport is reporting that will almost certainly be off the field for most of the offseason as he recovers from the surgery for the turf toe that hampered his mobility in the postseason. So, yeah, it happened against the Browns in the divisional round, and you've seen him limping around and jumping and doing everything he could, almost like a superhuman effort, and he did everything he could, but he'll be fine by the start of next season. So
yeah, for sure.
That's definitely one team that doesn't have to worry about quarterbacks.
No, you don't have to worry about quarterbacks when you have Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. No, you do not.
The half a Billy man.
One team that does have to worry about a quarterback is the 49ers. They are in limbo with Jimmy Garoppolo, and they go out and re-signed Josh Rosen to a 1-year, $840,000 contract this week. Rosen was scheduled to become an exclusive rights free agent. He was active for 2 games upon being scooped off a Tampa Bay's practice squad in December, but never received any reps. So it's still possible he competes as Jimmy Garoppolo's direct backup, or at least forces the Niners to carry 3 quarterbacks, which they probably don't want to do.
Wait a minute. How much money did you say?
840,000.
Yeah.
Just a 1 year deal, a 1 year prove it deal for Josh Rosen.
Yeah, he hasn't really proven it anywhere, nor has he gotten the chance to prove it.
That's true. He got a little
Since
bit
Arizona.
yeah, even in Miami, he didn't get a chance. Like he did, he got a couple games, but he was pretty bad. But again, 3 new offensive systems and now a 4th with San Francisco. He's had to learn every year. And he also had different offensive coordinators in UCLA when he came out. And that was one of the big questions as to whether or not he was going to be able to adapt to learning a new system every year. And we saw Alex Smith, that happened to him, and it kind of ruined his career, even though he was a number 1 pick, which Rosen was a pretty high pick too. So he does have potential. Maybe if anybody's going to fix him, it's Kyle Shanahan in that offense and running the ball and short passes and whatnot.
Speaking of coaches, the Vikings hired Clint Kubiak as the offensive coordinator, replacing his dad, Gary Kubiak, who retired last month after 1 season as the team's offensive coordinator and 36 years as a coach in the league. Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer reportedly wanted to keep the team's offense in place, so the younger Kubiak will allow Kirk Cousins and company to keep the same offensive language, concepts, and hopefully the fantasy points in 2021. Clint spent 2 seasons as the Vikings quarterback coach after 3 seasons as Denver's QB coach. So I love this for all my Dalvin Cook shares, all my Justin Jefferson.
Oh yeah,
even my Adam Thielen.
Sure.
I'm so excited for this move for Clint Kubiak in general. Congratulations. You're taking a step in the right direction, following in your father's footsteps.
Right.
At the age of 33, you're an assistant, you're an offensive coordinator. Great.
And you see this. Everybody wants the next Sean McVay. Everybody wants the next LaFleur. Like we
How'd
all want
I know
this
you were going to say
Taylor,
that,
right?
You always say that.
They do. Everybody's
they do
that.
though. Everyone does. Yeah.
So this one coming from Kubiak, I mean, if you came from Kubiak, you came from Shanahan influence too. So there's a lot of, knowledge and information that he's going to have. And listen, Kirk Cousins, we're going to talk about him in the top 12 segment here in a minute, but he's QB 11, man. So he's doing something right. And the arrow is pointing up for sure for the Vikings offense.
Another coach hire, the Giants, my team, Big Blue, hired Rob Sale this week as offensive line coach. Now, Sale and Giants head coach Joe Judge were together at Alabama over a decade ago. Sale spent 3 years as the Louisiana's offensive coordinator, a stretch in which the Raging Cajuns broke many offensive school records, including total offense 6,918 yards, total touchdowns, most rushing yards, most rushing touchdowns. Maybe that was part of when Lamar Jackson was. Maybe that was that Lamar's.
He was in Louisville.
Oh, he was in Louisville.
Yeah.
No, my bad.
I know it was with the Raging Cajuns. I'm not sure there, but like I love this.
Who's a Raging Cajun?
I love this.
Ray Calais. Raymond Calais was a Raging Cajun.
Yeah, he was definitely effective. And listen, that's great for Barkley. New offensive line coach. Like you maybe get those guys in the right direction. You have some pieces there. And Andrew Thomas and Will Hernandez are both really good young blockers. And if you can get them playing well, that's a good move for them.
Yeah, they had a couple issues during the regular season last year with their offensive line coach.
Colombo,
right? Colombo was not on the same page with Joe Judge. And Joe Judge turned around and said, hey, you got to take a step aside. We're bringing in somebody else. And Colombo was like, yeah, whatever. And he stepped away. He's like, I'm done. The softer side of that.
The nice way.
Yeah, that's the nice way. That's a nice way to say what he did.
It's a nice way to put it. We're a family show.
Right, exactly. Other coach speak. Let's see. Bears promoted quarterbacks coach John DeFilippo to pass game coordinator 2020 for 2021 will only be DeFilippo's second season under coach Matt Nagy, but 17th overall in the league, holding recent offensive coordinator stints with the Jags, Vikings, and Browns from 2015 to 2019. The former's connection with Carson Wentz is of note, as Chicago is reportedly in the mix for Mr. Carson Wentz.
Yep.
And you like that if they have a little continuity and familiarity, and if they're going to be able to speak the same language, that's kind of tipping their hand that they're really going to go all in and try to get Carson Wentz there.
I've heard all kinds of things, and I'm waiting for it to drop. I think it's going to happen this week. We know for sure that he's not going to the Patriots because, according to the Athletics' Jeff Howe, he reports that the Patriots are not a serious suitor for Carson Wentz. So I believe that, without even reading anything more into this news from Jeff Howe, that it's either the Colts or the Bears at this point.
I would believe so. If I had to bet money, those would be the two teams that I'd be betting on. Too many connections, too much familiarity there on both teams with Frank Reich or with Nagy in that system.
Yep.
And then one more quarterback piece of news. Now, I did not expect this one to be in the news, but here we are. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports there's a legitimate and real trade interest involving Raiders quarterback Marcus Mariota. Now, the Raiders have fielded calls from various teams on both Derek Carr and Mariota, both of whom have reasonable 2021 contracts. The Athletic reported that the Raiders' preference is to trade Mariota instead of Carr. And it looks like Vegas will be able to pull that off, huh?
There's too many teams and not enough quarterbacks, at least that level. Number 2 overall pick, former number 2 overall pick. He came in and had 26.8 points in the one game that he played this year for the Raiders. He had 88 yards rushing. So, like, he still has the athleticism. He's still young. He's the same age as Jameis Winston, who came out together. So he can be a reclamation project. If Winston can be reclamated in New Orleans, then Mariota can be too. It takes the right spot.
That song from Ludacris from back in the day just popped in my head. I got too many, not enough. Too many rookies, not enough pros.
Maybe that's the next parody project, Mr. Swanson, right there.
Yeah.
There it is. Oh, okay.
I love me some
like
Ludacris,
that.
but we have to, that's definitely
like
an edit. Radio edit.
Yeah. Beep.
But that pretty much breaks down what's going on in the news.
There
You
was
guys
one
got
more piece of
anything to add
news.
in there?
Yeah, I got one more piece of news here, and it comes from Justin. The guy who ran on the field was about to win $374,000. So have you guys heard about this?
Yes.
I heard it was debunked. No.
Okay, so that's the thing, is that you're not allowed to directly impact your bet. So I doubt, like, if it were me and my buddies, say it were us and we were planning this caper, right? I wouldn't tell anybody except the immediate people around me what was going on, what bet I was placing. I'd have someone else place the bet and give them a cut of it. And I've never put that on the internet, because then all of a sudden that's not going to happen. I think it's just one of those things that's debunked. That guy has streaked on the field for, I think, a Dodgers playoff game. I think he's done it for soccer. I did it for like one other thing too. So he was promoting like a website or something. So I don't think
he was being stupid about it.
Well,
we all thought he was a genius.
Thing is, yeah, because I did too. I was like, oh my God. But then I thought,
So, hey, Swanson.
It's true. Yeah.
On opening day baseball, right? We're going to go out there. We're going to, just push you over the ledge real fast in a trench coat. You're going to run right through the outfield.
One of us has to be a decoy.
Juan's going to place the bet in Atlantic City, and we're going to erase this from our live stream. This message will self-destruct in 40 seconds.
We're going to cut this.
No, but that's crazy. Newcomer in the chat, you got Cowboys will win the Super Bowl. What's up, man? How are you? Man or woman, sorry. What's going on? Thank you for joining in. Hope you've reached the Tilt is Real Fantasy Football Podcast, live, interactive, in your face. We're doing a little off-season talk, but please stick around, enjoy the show, and go back and check us out on YouTube at The Tilt is Real, or Twitter at The Tilt is Real on Twitter.
I feel like there's somebody we know who created this YouTube name.
Just
to mess with the two of us.
Oh, maybe.
I was going to say it might be Wine Guy. It might be.
Hey, it might be. Hey,
it might be Ryan. Oh, because Ryan up here said who did it, talking about painting, and we never brought it back up. So maybe he's mad and came back.
Yeah, shout out to Ryan Alexander. He did do the study work here in
excellent
my
work.
Yes,
excellent
very
work.
nice.
The paint, everything
complimented it on it all the time.
All the time.
All right, so you guys ready to get into this segment that we're about to kick off here, man?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're gonna.
What is that segment, Chef? What are we gonna do here?
Oh, it's called Tilting into the Top 12, and I got a little fancy drop for you. Here we go.
That sounds good.
Shout out to these guys.
Me and my bro, yeah, we been around the map. Did a couple laps and we got a few plaques. Tell them no way when they telling me relax. Tell them no way when they letting off the gas. Ain't no way I could ever be less. Forget who the greatest, I'm greatest right now. Biggest in city and biggest in town. I ain't just messing around. I was that kid in that crowd. Now I'm on the stage or the ground, and they all singing out loud. And I'm on 10 right now, and I'm in my zone right now. Wait, hitting my phone right now. You know I gotta go right now. You know I gotta go right now, and I go hard till the lights go out. Gotta go hard, gotta let them know now. Gotta go yard, gotta get a first down. Gotta go yard, I ain't talking about a bag. Gotta go yard, I ain't talking about a brand. Trying to get a black card and give it to the fan. Gotta go hard till they know who I am. Damn.
Yeah, going to the top, baby. And we're going to kick it off at the top with our top 12 2020 quarterbacks. We're going to tilt into this list, guys. And the first guy off there is Josh Allen, man.
Oh, we're going from 1 to 12?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought we were going from 12 to 1.
We can do it that way too, but
I think the bigger conversations will happen as we start to go down this list a little bit, and so maybe we knock out the easy ones in the beginning,
and
then we'll have a little bit more controversy down towards the bottom of the 12.
We will, because every year you see a little bit of change, and there are 3 guys that are new to the list in 2020 who weren't on the list last season. So it's kind of interesting when we get to those guys. But Josh Allen was on the list last year, but he did take a massive leap this year to finish at number 1 with 406 total fantasy points. Like that's a huge jump. That's 4,500 yards passing, 37 touchdowns. That's a huge season. And then he also ran in 8 touchdowns for good measure. I think he had 1 receiving too, Mr. Swanson, right?
Yeah, he did. You're right.
Yep. And Chef, you love Josh Allen.
I'm all about Josh Allen now. Yeah, I was wrong about him at the beginning of the season, unfortunately. I wish I could have went out and redid 2020, don't we all?
I mean,
this is definitely the do-over year.
That is definitely a redo.
He's the most improved quarterback. Like Juan said, it's the do-over year, and I'm doing it over the right way. I've done 2 startup drafts already for Dynasty, and I've taken Josh Allen in both of them.
I like
in
that.
Superflex.
I love Josh Allen. I love his. There's so much to say about the guy's durability. He played all 16 games in 2020. He played all 16 games in 2019. And there's a couple interesting. I mean, I just kind of forgot about it, but then I looked it up and remembered. So he set the single season franchise record this year for completions, passing yards, passing touchdowns, total touchdowns, completion percentage, and passer rating, and scored as many rushing touchdowns as the rest of the roster combined.
Sheesh.
And
they had Jim Kelly.
Right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? I love him. I don't think he's reached his ceiling yet. I think he's equipped. I think he's equipped to be in the top 5 conversation for a couple years running. A couple years.
Yeah. They can hold that together the way they did. They are like 2 pieces away from winning a Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think they could have beaten the Chiefs. They lost Zach Moss in the postseason. That hurt them a lot more than what people expected. They couldn't get the running game going against the Chiefs, and
they could use an elite tight end too, or a really good playmaking tight end, better than Dawson Knox. They can use an upgrade at that position, and maybe Gabriel Davis emerges and becomes that too that you're missing when John Brown was always hurt.
100%. Gabriel Davis is a great weapon for Josh Allen. We saw him start to emerge as Smokey John Brown was hurt this season, and we're forgetting that the transition from last year to this year was just amazing. Okay, his passing completion percentage in 2019, I'm looking at it. Oh, man, it was 52.2%. And then he transitions to 69.2.
Yeah, he went up 17 points, man. 17 percentage points.
Unbelievable.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you normally don't see that. It's a massive leap.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was 58.8 in 2019 to 69.2. I was looking at his 2018 year. So
even that, though.
It's even worse.
Yeah, he went up by 6, and then he went up 11 more. That's great.
Yeah, and I think it had a lot to do with Stephon Diggs.
Huge part of it. He's always open.
Sure.
He's one of those dudes like Keenan Allen where you just can't. He runs every route and he's wide open on every play. It's just do you have the time to get it to him?
And the chemistry between Allen and Diggs, you wish for that kind of chemistry to build between your quarterback and your receiver.
It's like Rodgers to Adams.
Yeah,
almost. It was like that. It was on that level for sure.
I would definitely agree with that one.
And he's one of those guys that's locked in there at the top 5, and he's going to be there. Whether or not he's the one next year, other guys are going to have a lot to say, including Kyler Murray, who comes in at number 2. And he also has that same thing where he got a new receiver this year in DeAndre Hopkins, and that continuity starts to build. Look out for him next year to be right here, top 3 again, Kyler Murray.
Oh yeah, we're moving right into number 2. Yeah, that's a good segue there, Juan. Did you have that set up?
No, started talking.
But yeah, let's move on to Kyler, because you bring up DeAndre Hopkins, and Kyler did great this year. I can't take anything away from Kyler Murray. Number 2 overall.
And a lot of that was the 11 rushing touchdowns. So I get it. He only had 26 touchdowns passing, including that one beautiful Hail Murray that we love so much.
Hail Murray.
Yeah. But yeah, that continuity with him and D-Hop is only going to get better. And they need people. They need linemen. They need to protect him. They need
some more pieces. Yeah. They need some more pieces for sure.
And if Kenyon Drake leaves, what are you going to do at running back?
I was going to say, they need a new running back. They need to do something about Fitz. He's 38.
Yeah, I like Christian Kirk moving to the slot and them getting a number 2.
They're definitely going to have to add some pieces in this offseason. The one stat that bothers me a little bit about Kyler Murray is his continuity in the interception line. Okay, he had 12 interceptions last year, 12 interceptions this year with an upgrade at wide receiver. I think his height has something to do with it and the weakness on the offensive line. They need to improve that offensive line for him.
Yeah, or move him and use like what Sean Payton does or what the Seattle Seahawks do so well, which is moving the pocket over so he has throwing lanes to get into and be able to throw the ball without, having to throw it over top of the O-line. But a lot of that is forcing the ball and wanting to play hero ball. Like he knows he's a star. He knows he belongs here in the top 5 in fantasy, and he wants to do too much to try to help his team win. And I mean, some of that is those mistakes can be attributed to that. And as he grows, maybe the interceptions will come down.
And we're really nitpicking here because there was only 16 points difference in fantasy production from number 1 to number 2. That's not much.
No. But again, he had a lot of touchdowns, and so did Josh Allen. You see both guys 8 and 11 touchdowns, respectively. So that plays a lot into it. And there's going to be a couple guys that we'll talk about later that have a chance to go back to 1 if they can get the touchdowns on the board like that.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? What do you guys think that it's going to help Kyler Murray out this offseason to progress to the next level as an elite QB?
Vincent Brunetti seems to think that Kingsbury's holding the offense back. So in the offseason, I would hopefully maybe look to see a little less of that. But I think the other, what we talked about too is getting some pieces around him for sure. I think that's what you got to do. You got to protect him more. Maybe get some stem cells in his ankles, make him a little taller.
Give him a little stilt action.
Yeah, give him some stilts, man. Put him up there.
Hey, that little guy, I saw him on The Wizard of Oz once. No, sorry.
If you move the line a little bit and get them a little help, get some offensive linemen, you're going to have to expand the offense. Or maybe they go get Aaron Jones. Maybe they do something along those lines and get him an
Juan,
running back.
You read my mind because I was waiting for you to finish and I was hoping you weren't going to say anything. But yeah, Kenyon Drake, he's in a contract year. He had a 1-year prove-it deal. I think he proved enough that they might keep him around. But on the other side of things, he didn't prove enough that he's worthy of a giant contract. So I believe they may go out and sign a more stable, higher-end running back in Aaron Jones that could help that system thoroughly. Get the pressure off of Kyler Murray because Kenyon Drake wasn't it.
No. It's a different player, like a slightly more burst, better hands, but a way better pass catcher. You won't have to rely on Chase Edmonds all the time to come in and just be the pass catcher. He's a more complete back. And you saw him be electric and find the end zone. So that could be a huge help for that offense, getting someone like Aaron Jones. It doesn't have to be him. I mean, Chris Carson's an upgrade too. He might be available. So
Chris Carson.
And before we move on to our third quarterback in the list, we could both all 3 of us could come to consensus that these guys are at the top for 2021.
For sure.
Off the board, off the rip.
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah,
they're
for
there.
sure.
I still
in the
think
top 5, yeah.
They're all locks to be in the top 5. It's going to be a matter of preference because when we move on to the next one, this is one that I was down on. I didn't think he would make the top 12, and every year one guy falls out, and I thought Aaron Rodgers was going to fall out. I really didn't think he was going to have the season that he did. He was the MVP of the league, was 70.7% completion percentage, which is crazy. That's what everybody aspires to get to, and he reached it. And 48 touchdowns to just 5 interceptions. That's mad in numbers, dude. So he still got it. He's still out to prove something. And Aaron Rodgers, it's crazy, but you can't leave Aaron Rodgers. Like he's going to be one of those guys. Next year, he's going to get left out of that top 5 because Dak is going to come back healthy, and Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson will round out the top 5, and everybody's going to forget about Aaron Rodgers, and he could end up right here again in the top 3.
Yep, 100%. Just like you said, Madden numbers: 48 touchdowns, 5 picks.
Yeah.
What? 70.7% completion rating? Come on.
Yeah. It's pretty unbelievable the type of season that he was able to put together. And he's like 36, 37 years old now. And he doesn't look like Roethlisberger, and he doesn't look like Phillip Rivers. He looks kind of like what Brady's been doing, like where he can keep on playing for a few years.
And don't forget that he did this with Devontae Adams out in 2 games. Devontae Adams was out in week 3 and 4 versus teams like Atlanta, which he could have lit up.
Yeah.
And Rodgers' stats, we could have been talking about Aaron Rodgers number 1 overall this season.
Yeah.
This past season.
Close. These top 3 are close, man.
Yeah, even number 4, as we transition on to the next one, who's another great. I think he's still the number 1. It's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, not only did we see him with the superhuman performance in the Super Bowl, but the man missed a game and was 260 yards shy of 5,000. So He didn't.
Is that what it was? 260 yards. Was he really?
260 yards. So
I didn't see that. That's awesome.
He scored 26 less fantasy points than Josh Allen, and he missed week 17, so he didn't play 1 week. So, yeah, Mahomes to me is still the one going forward.
I don't know. Stat check that one.
What?
Mahomes?
260.
Yeah, 260 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was told there would be no math.
Sorry. There's a little bit of math. He was 260 yards shy of 5,000, and he was 26 points short of being number one.
Can I ask you guys a question? Would you consider taking Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes?
Not me, but I did
because
trade.
I might.
I just made a trade where I traded away, since we're talking in transition in a dynasty and all that stuff still, I traded away Josh Allen and CEH for Patrick Mahomes and Miles Sanders.
Oh, well, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
okay. So in redraft,
guys out there.
What about in redrafts?
In redraft, no, I'm still taking Patrick Mahomes over Josh Allen, but I'm happy with Josh Allen. I mean, unless it's a super flex league, you're really not reaching. I'm not one of those guys that's going to reach super high on a quarterback. I'm just not. I'm going to wait until the 4th, 5th round for the elite running backs in redraft. But in dynasty, especially super flex, Juan and I are in a league right now where, I don't know, Juan, how many quarterbacks went off the board in the first 2 rounds?
I think the 9 first picks were
quarterback. Yeah.
Where did you guys pick?
I picked 2.
You picked 2. Who'd you get?
Deshaun.
You got Deshaun Watson, and I picked 5, and I got Josh Allen.
That's solid if you can get.
Oh wow, that's great. You got him.
Yeah,
5.
I was psyched.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
I was psyched.
You got him at 5. Yeah. Who went before him?
Kyler Murray went right before him, and Justin Herbert before Kyler Murray.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I see that.
We'll get to him in a minute.
Yeah, we're gonna get to Justin Herbert in a little bit. But yeah, man, that's the list right now. And you talked about Patrick Mahomes. I really can't pick his game apart, dude.
Nothing.
It's solid.
It is. It's a 100.
The only time we saw him lag a little bit in his game was when he was injured.
And there were down 3 offensive linemen. Yeah. So yeah, that'll happen to you when you're down that many linemen and your team doesn't have it. Like you saw Aaron Rodgers the first time they played against the Bucs when he didn't have David Bakhtiari, they got stomped on. The Bucs scored 38 unanswered on him, and it just ran him off the field, and he couldn't do anything. He threw back-to-back picks. Like, it's a huge deal to just miss 1 offensive lineman, let alone missing 3.
So the one game that made me nervous about Mahomes a little bit was when he played against Miami, and he had those 3 picks in that one game. Very uncharacteristic of him.
2 were tip balls.
Just Miami's defense.
2 were tip balls, but yes.
That is off his receivers, which is like a foreshadowing of what they were going to do to him in the Super Bowl.
But other than that, pretty clean across the board. You know, we don't see him score under 25 points. Or maybe once in the season he scored twice under 25 fantasy points. And I'm talking when he scored under 25. Guess what? He scored 24.
24.
Yeah.
So he averaged 25.4, which is the same as Josh Allen. So it's an argument that you can have about who's the number 1, but I don't see an argument. He's 1. Let's argue about who's 2, you know? And in that argument is another guy in the top 5, and it's Deshaun Watson. Yeah, I like to put him up there. I mean, again, 70.2% completion percentage. That's
I'll put Rodgers. Patrick Mahomes on top just because of the weapons around him. The more complete team. Like we talked about with Josh, just to backtrack a second. Yeah. We talked about Josh Allen needing that extra piece. If he got one of those higher end tight ends or another breakout wide receiver, he might be just as good as Mahomes fantasy wise.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're all in the same conversation, but I think he's on his own tier until that happens for Josh Allen, or until Andy Reid's no longer the coach, or Eric Bieniemy's not the OC, or Tyreek Hill leaves, or Kelsey retires or something crazy like that. Until that happens, I think they're going to keep surrounding him with talent, and he's just going to be the one.
I can't disagree with you there, man.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, they could probably use a little help in the running game, but CEH is still young. He's got time to develop.
For sure.
And we started to talk about Deshaun Watson, and now here's a guy that I was down on in the beginning of the season because I foresaw the Houston Texans crashing.
Right.
I really did. And I was right about that part. I was right about the Houston Texans crashing. However, I was wrong on the fact that Deshaun Watson could actually pick the team up and put him on his back and carry him to at least fantasy relevance around the team.
Well, the crazy thing is, like, Will Fuller, when he went down with the suspension, was wide receiver 6. at that point. So he was propelling someone to fantasy relevance. And we saw a great year out of David Johnson that we didn't expect either. He dumped the ball off a lot to him. But Deshaun's one of those dudes. The team went 4-12. Quarterback wins shouldn't be a quarterback stat. Because if he's 4-12, if 4,823 yards and 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions is 4-12, that's not on him.
No, that's not.
You know,
It's
he had
definitely
them in every single game, and he had them down to the wire. He had to go through bad coaching from Bill O'Brien, who subsequently got fired. Their offense was in shambles. The injuries and Fuller getting suspended. It's just, speaks to him and his potential. Like where he goes next, that's going to set the league on fire.
And that's
a huge question.
That's what I wanted to get to. Like, so there's always rumors swirling around Twitter. There's rumors swirling around NFL media. Where do we think Deshaun Watson, and we've talked about this, we've had our little quarterback carousel episode. You guys can go back on Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to this, and check us out, live stream, etc. But Deshaun Watson, I mean, there's a couple suitors out there that really make sense. One being the New York Jets. Now, if he lands on the Jets, first and foremost, do you believe the Texans actually let him go? Because that's what's really holding it up. He wants to leave.
I don't think it's going to take a lot, man. I really don't think they're going to let him go. That's just my take on it after just reading everything and just kind of, I don't know, reading between the lines and just getting the vibe out of it. I don't really think they're going to let him go, which is a terrible idea because then you've got to force the guy to play in a place where he doesn't want to play anymore. And it's just a bad thing. Like they should let him go, but if they do let him go, it ain't going to be easy. That's what I'm saying. And I agree with Vincent that he doesn't get enough love. And he should, if he went somewhere else, I feel like he would do better and be way more relevant.
So from what I understand, the biggest thing to it is, first of all, like you said, Chef, Houston probably doesn't want to let him go. But he also has that no trade clause. It's always going to be hanging there. So they can't just send him to where they get the best package. He has to approve the deal. And he's only said Miami, the Jets, and I believe San Francisco was rumored, and he took a picture on IG with the whole 49ers stuff on and all that of the Joe Montana jersey. So like maybe there's a connection there where he would play in San Francisco, and him and Kyle Shanahan, dude. Talk about for fantasy relevance. Like that would be amazing, him in that system. But I don't know if they have the pieces to pull it off or if they can do it. But if the Texans move him, I would go after Darnold and that number 2 because I get a 23-year-old quarterback who's younger than Joe Burrow and not coming off an injury, who had all that potential. And I get the number 2 and whatever else I get in that package. So I would be tempted if I was Houston. If he wants to leave.
I would be too.
If it's going to happen, I think it's going to happen with the Jets.
With the Jets,
I can also see an option where, Watson turns around and he says, you know what? I told you I really don't want to play with you guys. I'm going to opt out.
I'll sit out for the year.
I'm going to opt out. That 2020 opt-out situation is still on the board for 2021.
That is true. I didn't even think of that.
And you know what?
Yeah, wow.
It could really just happen like that. Mid-contract doesn't lose his contract years. It just adds another one to it.
It's a terrible idea.
But hey,
it's a horrible idea for him to do
when
that.
It's a business.
Football, you take a year off. Now that's still. I think that's every time you see a player opt out,
publicity wise,
but it's also
playing your hand though. It's playing.
You're playing your hand, man.
If you even threaten them with that, at this point, he hasn't threatened.
With that's something that that's not. That's like something like hey, can I have off from work the other day? Oh, but if you don't give me off, I'm going to call out. You don't tell your boss you're going to call out.
Yeah, you just do it.
What if they call his bluff? And what if he doesn't play? Now he's got a whole year where he doesn't play football and he comes back. He's not going to. You need to develop in the NFL. Look at other guys who have held out on their contracts and came back and they were garbage. Guys who went to the Jets. Guys named Le'Veon Bell. I mean, you were the number 1 running back or like way up there, and then you take a year off and you do a bunch of stupid stuff.
Yeah, but he's 25 years old. For a quarterback with the longevity thing, he can play that card if he needed to. I hope he. Whatever happens, I hope he plays because I think he'll be in this top 5 conversation.
I just hope he plays.
I think the San Francisco market and the New York Jets market are great landing spots for him.
He likes to be on a boat, though. Don't rule out the Dolphins.
And the Dolphins are sending offers, which is wild. And just to get Vincent Brunetti on the screen here, he said Jets fired Bowles and hired Gase. I hope he doesn't go there. Well, they're gone.
Well, I mean,
Well, that's what I mean. But
you got Robert Saleh there now.
Yeah.
No, he
but,
just
but,
means-
but they might have Salah and he might be pretty good and promising, and they might fire him, and then they might hire John DiFilippo or somebody to come in there, or Nick Soriani once he flames out of the Eagles.
Oh, ooh.
The hell was that about?
Shots
I didn't do anything. I
fired.
didn't do anything to you.
Shots
Your
fired.
coach did that 40-second clip, man.
Oh gosh.
It's so funny.
Yeah, he's not a real big public speaker, that Nick Sirianni, huh?
No, not the best.
Yeah, well,
We're not hiring public speakers. We're hiring coaches.
yeah, that's right. You don't have to say everything.
That's true.
All right.
That's true. Don't say
Belichick
anything,
says
just
3
coach.
words.
That's true. We're on in Cincinnati.
Tom Coughlin never really
Yeah.
said too much. He always yelled at the players on the field instead until his face turned red.
Until his face turned red.
His face was always red. But yeah, guy that's been talking a little bit is our number 6 quarterback on the season, and that's Russell Wilson. And he's making a little bit of noise too. He says he wants a little help, man. And I can't blame him, dude.
It seems like every year he's screaming the same thing. Help me. Get offensive line help. Get offensive line help. Get offensive line help.
And they don't.
And
don't.
they just go out and trade their picks for defensive players.
Yep.
And their defense doesn't stop anybody.
You're
We
chasing
saw
the
Cam
losing
Akers
boom.
run all over them in the playoffs.
Well, they did it for Clowney 2 years ago. They did it for Jamal Adams this year. Like, they're always making that move because, we're one piece away because we have Russ. Well, give him a piece to protect him, and you may not need that defense to be great. You may not need that impact player. So their valuation of first-round picks is mind-boggling. Russ needs protection. I don't think he gets traded by any means or he moves anywhere, but they will, I think, address the situation and get him some help.
I hope so. I think he still had a great season.
Quietly,
4,200 yards,
seem...
40 touchdowns. I mean, the man did see about 13 interceptions, but that's only because he had to throw the ball a
Russ has
lot.
been running for his life his whole career.
And he started out this season on fire, man. I thought he was going to be fantasy MVP.
Yeah, we thought he was going to be one.
At the turn of the season, he was on fire.
Week 6, week 7 or
Coming
so.
out of his bye, he was on top.
Yeah. And it was record setting. Like, it was like they were the number 1 offense by a mile. He was breaking all the statistical records
and then it just plateaued, and then it got quiet, which is funny because that's why I say quietly, because the back half of the season is more is closer in my mind than the front half. But really, I mean, he finishes number 6, and like Vince says right here, all of it was, a lot of it was in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Beginning to middle, like you said, after he came out of the bye.
And not coincidentally, you saw Chris Carson go down, and the offensive lineman. I'm sorry, Chef.
Damn, took my take
He took him again. Oh no!
Hey, what?
It's still related. Great
minds think alike,
right.
We podcast and we know things.
But yeah, that hurt. The offensive line being banged up hurt. So, look for them to fix that, address the situation, and hopefully get him the help that he needs so he can stay right here where he's in. If he stayed on that pace from early on, he would have been QB1 on the year, and he'd be up in that conversation. So, not a bad place to be for Russ right in the middle there at QB6.
I don't see him not being in the top 5-6 conversation for next year either.
Right.
If they can add a little bit more for him.
But this is when you get to that point where
this is where we're going to start to tilt.
Exactly. The tilt starts to get real because these are guys that are all repeated. These are all guys that were in the top 12 last year, and perennially they're going to be in that top 6 conversation. But then you have a guy coming in this year as a newcomer and Ryan Tannehill at number 7, and that's a surprise. Like, we weren't expecting that. The same way Jameis last year was QB2, like that was a huge, or QB3, that was a huge surprise. So Tannehill to me is along those lines. I'm a little worried about the touchdown, Chef. 40 touchdowns doesn't seem like it's going to repeat there.
Like it's going to repeat.
I mean, you lost your offensive coordinator too. He went to Atlanta, Arthur Smith, to go coach. I'm not sure about the 40 touchdowns and if he regresses a little. And then
the 7 rushing touchdowns definitely regress a little bit.
Right.
I believe so. The rushing side of things.
And 40 is tough. 40 touchdowns is kind of a landmark, high-powered offense normally that you wouldn't expect from a team that runs the ball so heavily as the Tennessee Titans. You wouldn't expect 40 touchdowns for the quarterback.
Well, when you mentioned, sorry to cut you off, Chef.
No,
just before we go away, when you mentioned Arthur Smith leaving, I think they interviewed Pep Hamilton, who was a real big help in developing Herbert.
Indeed.
So that could be something to hang on to as well. I just wanted to get.
Oh no, I like that. I like wherever Pep goes, he's gonna help somebody be great.
Yeah.
The one thing I like about Ryan Tannehill, he is accurate. He's always been accurate. He's smart with the football. He can read the defense very, very well. So that play action system works for him.
It's perfect. Yeah.
It really is. I think that was the big transition, other than Adam Gase being in Miami, that really helped him out. He is a good quarterback, and I believe he will continue to be a good quarterback. Whether or not he throws for 3,800 yards again and puts up a total of 40 touchdowns is yet to be seen. I don't see those numbers repeating themselves to that extent anyway.
Right. I think he'll be one of those guys that's going to be on the fringe next year, QB 12, QB 13, somewhere in there, because we're going to see guys like that come back. There's going to be a reclamation project from Wild Jameis down there in New Orleans with that offense, and he might have a shot to come back in and finish in the top 5 again, because he will put up numbers with the Saints.
And I mean, not to get off topic or anything, but then we have the younger guys coming in like Joe Burrow.
Right. Joe Burrow will be back next year. You're going to have Trevor Lawrence going to be on a bad team building, and you never know. He could put up Herbert-like numbers next year.
We can't see the future. No. We can only predict what we've seen already.
Like Wentz on the Colts next year, or Wentz, who by the way was QB. What was Wentz last year? QB 9 last year. So Wentz on the Colts or Ryan Tannehill. You know what I mean? I think I like Wentz on the Colts over Ryan Tannehill.
I like that. Colts, man.
So it's all going to depend on the carousel where everybody ends up and where everybody.
But I mean, this is why we're doing this in a review setting where they've already played through the season. We get to look at their numbers in front of us and then just kind of predict what they're gonna do in the future. And Ryan Tannehill, I think he can stay inside the top 12. Whether or not he's probably around the same area, maybe.
I think he'll be a little lower because the top 6 we feel like are locks to be there, and then you have to add Dak. And then if you're adding Wentz moving in somewhere else, you're adding Herbert playing a full season, not just the 15 games. Lamar Jackson touchdown regression, positive regression and getting more touchdowns on the ground. I feel like that's likely. So
maybe a lower end QB1.
Yeah.
And
right.
And the more we get into this, the more I'm realizing these quarterbacks, some of them, like you said, like Dak was out, got hurt.
Right.
There's a lot more quarterbacks nowadays that are going to be throwing the ball more. So these numbers aren't just enough to get you into the top 12 anymore.
No, you need to do more. Yeah. You need to either get some rushing touchdowns,
or
you need to get to 5,000 instead of, 4,200 yards. It's all that.
I think, and the rushing touchdowns for him really saved him more so than anything else, because it wasn't all the passing work. He was one of those top 8 quarterbacks that threw under 4,000 yards.
Yep. And that's what helped him. 7 rushing touchdowns seems like a lot. You're right.
Yeah. It's just not sustainable from a guy that doesn't. I mean, Lamar Jackson, we'll get to him in a minute too. He had 7 rushing touchdowns.
Right. And I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, and Russell Wilson, none of them had more than 3.
Right.
So
that's the way it rolls. So who we got next? Who's number 8?
A guy who still had 3 rushing touchdowns and will not go away.
It's Tom
Brady. He doesn't go away.
He
doesn't go away. I just don't. I stopped hating on Brady. He wins.
Yeah, I mean, dude, still 43 years old, 4,600 yards and 40 touchdowns. Like,
come on, that's crazy.
Yeah. If they re-sign Godwin, I don't know how that's going to play out, but that offense remains just as explosive. You don't lose much if you lose AB and Scotty Miller's the one that's there. You don't lose much there either. The O-line's only going to get better. They're all really young. It's scary.
With Mike Evans coming out saying that he's willing to take a pay cut to stay on with the Tampa Bay
I love
Buccaneers
when players do that.
Next
That's
year.
Awesome.
Hats off to Mike Evans. If you saw before the Super Bowl on this past Sunday how he was helping in the community and children's hospitals and all that, Mike Evans, I tip my cap to you, man. I thought you were some stuck-up wide receiver your first couple of years, diva, always crying on the sideline. But guess what, you're a stand-up player. Hats off.
He just wanted to win, man. It's tough when you're one of those teams that just loses year after year and you're watching Jameis give the game away and throw interceptions and you're good enough to get somewhere, man. But they were one piece away and they got him, and it's the GOAT.
Was it 2 years? Was it 2 years ago that Jameis had the same amount of touchdowns that he did interceptions?
No, that was last year.
Last year, 2019.
That was last year.
Yeah. But for fantasy purposes, it was fantastic because he was QB3.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So who cares by hook or by crook? Get me there.
Yeah,
That's what we want to do. See you in the
I like
playoffs.
that. By hook or by crook.
And Vincent goes, who thought if you have a great wide receiver with your Hall of Fame QB, something great happens? Yeah, it wasn't.
Sometimes it's just that simple.
It was an all-around team. They had Hall of Fame pieces on their defensive line. Their offensive line was stellar. They added AB. They added Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, but that what he's saying, I think what he's alluding to is that the Patriots never were willing to do that. They did it with Moss, and then they went undefeated.
All right,
If they would have kept on giving him weapons every time he asked, they might have been okay. But in their defense too, they did try to bring AB, and he's just a knucklehead last year. If they would have had AB the whole season, maybe he would have been okay. Maybe they don't lose that playoff game. Maybe they don't lose in Week 17 to Miami and have to play.
Maybe Gronk goes back to the Patriots. And Tom Brady stays there. Hey, makes sense. I understand where you're coming from.
But as a Dolphins fan, I'm glad he's gone. Go to Tampa, win all the rings you want, unless you're playing us. Have fun with it.
Yeah, I can't knock Tom Brady for anything, man. And for fantasy purposes, he's going to live inside the top 12 until he retires, most likely.
He has to. You can't take him out of the top 12. Like I said, I can probably make a case for Dak being above him, and maybe Lamar Jackson getting more points next year, plus Justin Herbert, who we're about to talk to right here, this rookie taking the next step. But that's about it. You really can't take anybody out of him. So he's not falling out of the top 10 anytime soon, which is crazy that a 43-year-old quarterback's not dropping out of the top 10.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And Juan, like you said, Justin Herbert talking about other things that are wild. When you think about where he came from, how the season started, all of a sudden Tyrod gets that Pulp Fiction shot through the chest into his lungs. Justin Herbert comes on, and then 16 weeks later, he's only thrown 10 interceptions. That's crazy. He breaks the rookie record for passing touchdowns.
Rookie of the year.
Yeah,
he was rookie of the year.
He was the rookie of the year, and it was easy. I mean, it was easy to see. I knew Burrow going down had a lot to do with that competition. Maybe he would have been able to find success, but now like Herbert, we didn't see this coming. I didn't see him cracking the top 10, and
not in his first year.
No, not and with that offense, like you would think it was going to be all run and all that, and it wasn't going to be. It was going to be Anthony Lynn and slow, but he just came on explosive and threw for 300 against the Chiefs right off the bat. So, and went toe-to-toe with Mahomes. He went toe-to-toe with Brady, with Breeze. Like, he took on all of them, and he did great.
He was losing heartbreakers, too, man. Those games were so close.
His first game against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes. And he
almost won.
Almost won that
Almost
game.
won.
Yeah. So, look for him to continue, and that offense is going to be great. Like, they were number 5, the Chargers offense, in pass attempts, and then they were number 9 in rush attempts. So they play up tempo more than you thought they would. Like he's just freelance and just up there getting to the line quick and let's run another play. So I don't think that offense is going to slow down. Where they struggled was in the red zone. They were 21st in red zone efficiency. So that's not ideal. You know what I mean? And you can look for him to take a leap. So if you take a look at his numbers from this year and then say, well, look, Josh Allen took a leap. Like if this kid takes a leap anywhere,
I think he does.
Oof, he's top 5. Like
top 5.
What do you know about? I'm not familiar with. What do you know about Juan with Brandon Staley, the new head coach of the LA Chargers?
That he was the defensive coordinator for the Rams.
All right, so he's the defensive coordinator for the Rams. Does that mean they're going to run more?
Maybe. It depends on who he's going to put as the offensive coordinator, who he's going to hire there. That's the transition that's going to impact it, and whether or not they get a little O-line help because they're going to need that to be more efficient in the red zone. I love their team already and their receiving core, and they also have a pretty decent pick at 13. Like one of those top receivers might be able to slide down to them. If they give him another weapon on the outside with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, like look out. Like that team is like he could put up 5,000 yards next year.
Yeah.
Who is it? They had Jalen Guyton. He started to show some promise.
Jalen Guyton, Joe Reed, KJ Hill. Those were the guys they picked up this year, and they brought
Joe Reed was a wash. He really didn't do too much.
So far, he's got a good athletic profile. He might be okay, but so far, you never know. Those guys sometimes they break out in that year 2 situation. Hanging out with Keenan Allen all year helps. He's one of the best
wide receivers. They usually take that long anyway. They don't usually break out right away. 2 or 3 years for sure.
Yeah, but they need more O-line than they do receivers, so it probably wouldn't make more sense to get some O-line help.
Yeah, and if they have their defense healthier, they may want to run the ball a little bit more.
Yeah, you're going to get Derwin James back. He's a playmaker, maybe a more consistent year out of Joey Bosa, who was banged up the whole year. Melvin Ingram was hurt too.
But we obviously see the league transitioning into a more up-tempo offense around the league in general, trying to keep up with some of those Super Bowl champions like the Kansas City Chiefs, even the Buccaneers this year going out there and scoring 31 points in a Super Bowl, throwing the ball more than they run the ball.
Right.
That seems to be the recipe for success in this league now. It's not all about just playing defense and running it and controlling the clock. It's a mixture of both.
And that's what I'm glad you said mixture, Chef, because that's for our next guy at number 10, Lamar Jackson. That's what he needs, is a little upgrade in the mixture. Like, it can't just be all running the ball all the time.
Running the ball all the time.
Yeah. Every play's an RPOs. Go scramble for your life. Do something with it, kid. Like, let's go. Like, it's a little antiquated. I don't like what they were doing there with Greg Roman. I don't think they made enough adjustments. And you got to see something out of Hollywood Brown, or they need another piece, man.
I was just about to say that. You took the words right out of my mouth.
That's 3.
I mean, you added Dez Bryant. Okay, Dez Bryant was Dez Bryant. He played one game. You had Willie Snead there, who was in and out or on injury. Made a couple good plays towards the end of the season, but wasn't totally up to par as far as a reliable wide receiver for Lamar Jackson. Mark Andrews caught the 2020 in the middle of the season. Lamar Jackson caught the 2020 in the season. So with all that working together, I think the 2020 season in general, the 2020 pandemic took over the Ravens and their shot at winning a playoff game, being up to 100%, had a lot to do with it. I think they need more pieces on the receiving side of the ball, and I think they've been pretty good with addressing their needs in the draft and letting the draft fall to them.
Right.
So I think their draft pick, I don't know, they made the playoffs probably around 24,
26, somewhere in there.
Somewhere in that area. I think they're going to go out and they're going to hit this wide receiver market, this deep wide receiver market.
It is a good class,
and Devin Duvernay showed a little bit of promise, but yes.
They tried. They got Prochet. They got Miles Boykin a couple years ago. They've been trying. They just haven't hit. And then when you reached high and you took Hollywood, you thought he was the winner.
I think Hollywood Brown, he's going to work.
I think he'll be okay. I think so.
He's not an elite. He's not an elite wide receiver.
Right. I think they need one of those. I think they need to go and just, spend the money and go get Allen Robinson, or spend the money and go get Kenny Golladay.
Oh boy.
Either one of those on that
team. That's
a
thought.
I mean, you could do that, or you could do something similar to what the Rams did, where they had Robert Woods, who's a decent wide receiver 2, low end wide receiver 1, and then you pair him up with a Cooper Kupp.
Right.
And then they have 2 primary wide receivers and a good tight end in Mark Andrews.
Right.
And they just signed who they just signed. Nick Boyle just got an extension.
Yeah, they needed him. They missed him when he was injured too. That was big. They lost their blocking tight end at one point in the season.
So I think they just lost too many pieces, and I think we see Lamar Jackson take a step in the right direction for the 2021 season.
He's right back in that top 5 mix next year.
100%. And use the 2020 season to your advantage in the fantasy world. That last season relevance where, hey, I'm sorry, what's
recency bias?
Recency bias. That's
recency
it. Not
bias.
relevance.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm supposed to be the smart guy sitting in this study with all these books.
Pull one of those dictionaries off the shelf.
Yeah, right. There's one over there somewhere. But yes, the recency bias of him doing bad after an MVP season, we've seen it all before. Not many MVPs repeat as the MVP. It just doesn't happen. There are too many good players in the league, and I'm not downgrading Lamar Jackson one bit because of it.
No. If anything, in Dynasty, I'll buy him low if I can. If somebody's willing to part ways with him and ride the hot hand of, like, you love Justin Herbert, okay, let me get Lamar Jackson then. I don't mind that, because I think Lamar will be back to being Lamar, and maybe even better.
And I think we'll see Josh Allen step into that in redraft. Talking a little redraft here for next season, you'll see Josh Allen take that step into a higher tier of quarterback, and Lamar Jackson maybe negative regression, or I'm sorry, just regression rather. And as far as draft capital, and he will fall a little bit and get him at value, like you were saying for Dynasty. You get him at value for redraft, and you could have a slam bam. A roster with him, getting him later in the draft, like a sixth round pick. I wouldn't mind spending a 6th rounder on Lamar.
I mean, he still ran for 1,000 yards.
Yeah, and he's still in the top 10. That's how we look at it here. Mr. Swanson, you got anything to add on Lamar Jackson? Because I know you love to use some Hollywood Brown. Marquise, no grease.
I mean, I loved Hollywood Brown at the end of the season when he bailed me out multiple times with garbage time touchdowns. Actually, not even garbage time touchdowns, but they came at the end of the game. He's got a new long-term contract should be getting a new long-term contract. Lamar.
Yeah, they should definitely iron that out.
So that's the only thing I would add to that, because pretty much everything else was covered. But once that gets ironed out too, that always helps, knowing that your team and your city trust you enough to give you the money to be around for a while.
I don't remember what his contract was. I think he has 2 years left regardless on his first deal, doesn't he?
It's
I'm not
just
sure.
one more, I think.
I think it might just be one.
I think it might be one more. But
1, 2, 3, 4.
He'll get his extension though. He'll get it.
They'd be out of their minds not to figure out a way to sign him to an extension. They already let Mark Ingram walk.
Yeah. Another thing is Ronnie Stanley was out too, the left tackle. Like that plays a huge role too. If you lose your blocking tight end and you lose your left tackle, that affects everything. So I expect big things from him next year. A big bounce back year for Lamar.
Now, you got Lily next to you?
No, I have Lola next to me.
Oh, okay. I knew it was one of the dogs. No, she's not. I knew that was a dog pet move, so I didn't know which one it was.
We have it gated off, but Lola, she is
smart.
sneaky
She's
and
savvy.
smart. And, savvy.
Big. She is smart.
And she snuck her way into the study here, but she's cool. She doesn't bark. I don't mind.
Yeah, and Kirk Cousins snuck his way into the top 12.
Hey, nice one. Nice.
Wait a second. I want to see what Vincent has to say here. He said, supposedly they didn't change much from the year before because defenses were calling out their plays, which probably links to Lamar early season lulls. Yes. I mean, he's Lamar Jackson. He's going to run the ball.
What he's speaking is truth, though. They stayed really stagnant. That offense, you didn't see any creativity from Greg Roman. You did see the same exact offense from the year before. Like, you didn't see that what Dable was doing with Josh Allen and Buffalo. Like, you didn't see the creativity in their play calling. They blamed it on personnel maybe, but it was just boring. Like, they figured they could just sleepwalk their way into the playoffs and then try to unveil something new and then turn it up a notch. You got to put that stuff into practice. And you saw the Bucs with a short season. They were still able to do it because they put in the work to get the timing right on all those routes. And Brady yelling at people, and it worked for them.
And you touched on Kirk Cousins, and we'll roll right into him. Comes in at what, number 11?
Yep.
Was he number 11 on our list?
Yeah, he snuck in the top 12.
He did.
Man, I don't know if he snuck in.
Which isn't bad for being one of the most pressured quarterbacks in the league.
I think his numbers at the end of the season were quite good for fantasy. I mean, he had some weeks there when I write the waiver wire sheet every week during the regular season, and he was on there almost every week. And people are like, "No, I'm not going for Kirk Cousins. No, I'm not going for Kirk Cousins." But there he is, putting up 314 for 3 touchdowns, 292 for 2, 307 for 3, 305 for 3. He stayed in the upper side of the 250s to the 300 range for almost the whole second half of the season while not throwing any interceptions. He had 2 interceptions in that stretch from weeks 11 on. Come on.
They figured it out. And Mr. Swanson was saying that the rookie wide receivers take a little while. Well, Jefferson broke out, but he wasn't always consistently open or where he needed to be. And then later on in the season, it clicked. And then him and Thielen in the running game with Dalvin Cook helps. And that play action, like you said before, like they're just going to keep running play action till they can't anymore.
Well, and that brings us back to where we talked about in our weekly reel a little bit earlier is the fact that Stefanski Jr. Kubiak Jr. Clint Kubiak. We're going to call him Kubiak Jr.
Baby
Coobs. So Baby Coobs is there running the offense now. They're going to keep the same offensive scheme in place. So can we see Kirk Cousins back in the top 12 next year?
I think he'll be right there where I'll have Tannehill and him kind of in that 11, 12, 13 range, because I do expect the bounce back from as soon as he gets back. I expect the bounce back from
Dak and Burrow.
Yeah, and I also Dak, Burrow, Wentz if he goes to the right place. And
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
continue. Maybe.
And another one who's sneaky could get in there too is Matthew Stafford with the Rams. If that offense is as efficient as it seems like it's going to be with those new weapons, you could see Matthew Stafford in the top 12.
I could see that too. Actually, I could.
I don't see Kirk Cousins making it. I think he could be close. The only thing that takes him out of that is if Dalvin Cook can stay healthy on the field, they run the ball more. He doesn't have to throw as much.
Correct. Yeah, they definitely want to run the ball and they want to control the game in that way. But he'll put up good numbers and he'll be a viable high-end QB too. But I don't see him beating out the likes of Stafford, Dak, and Wentz if they're in the right places.
I don't think you'll see him a lot on the waiver wire next year. I think he'll actually be owned as somebody's quarterback.
Probably.
Yeah. Sure. All right. So that leaves us with one guy left. And that guy, I have my ifs about this.
It's up and down, huh?
All right, so here's the thing. All right, so number 12 is Matt Ryan. I didn't expect that when I went through everything that he was the number 12. But when you sit there and you think about it, he still can provide a high ceiling and a high floor with that high-powered offense. And Julio doesn't sound like he's going anywhere. I think that there still are pieces where Matt Ryan could be right at this same spot next year. I still think he could do it.
Feels like that's where he is almost every year.
It does. And I feel like that consistency. Where did he finish 2019?
He finished 2019, he finished number 10. 2018, he finished number 2. He hasn't finished outside the top 12 since 2015.
Yeah, that's where he'll be, I think, next year. Like, you could expect a little bit of a drop-off if Arthur Smith goes there and they run the ball. Like, if they take Najee Harris with that mid-first-round pick and they go big boy running back style, because their offensive line is really built for it. Like, they have a lot of good offensive linemen.
It's a very good point. But at the same time, that could also open up more because he did get picked a lot. He did have some issues for him to finish the top 12. That's why I said I was surprised. So if they could – what was that? That was cool.
It's feeding time at the zoo.
Feed me.
You might hear him a little bit.
If they can establish a run game like that and make that really happen, then that could really help Matt Ryan and increase his probability to finish within the top 12. And I know maybe some people have a bad taste in their mouth about Matt Ryan for whatever reason, but I really don't, or I shouldn't. Or I felt like I did, and then I kind of looked into it and I was like, all right, maybe I shouldn't.
I feel half glass full at all times, but with the Falcons, I really do feel it. The offensive line is going to bounce back. They're really good offensive linemen on that team. Matt Ryan's a professional. He just this year the whole team, like Vincent saying here in the chat, they were just like Houston and Detroit. Like the teams were imploding. Like the teams were just collapsing around them. They couldn't play defense for a long time. Then defense started to get right, and then the offense had continuity issues. Todd Gurley was the shadow of Todd Gurley.
Julio Jones missed 7 games.
Yeah.
I was going to say in and out like that. I think that's the biggest thing for me that I'm surprised that Matt Ryan even made it into the top 12 with the fact that Julio Jones wasn't there. Because when Julio Jones was there, he performed
for sure.
And when there's no Julio, there's no Matt Ryan.
Right. And then we saw one game from Julio Jones where he had over 30 fantasy points, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah, and Calvin Ridley benefited from it in a volume way, but I think he would benefit more by having Julio on the field so he doesn't get the doubles. And Russell Gage too. That first game of the season, I'll never forget that. The first game of the season, they all
I was so happy about Russell Gage.
They all had 9 catches, didn't they? And they went over 100 yards. It was kind of crazy how much success they had when they were all on the field together. So
what did Russell Gage have? I gotta look at
it. He's on the waiver wire.
9 for 114 the first week, and then he went 6 for 46 and a tutty on week 2 versus Dallas. I was on my high horse right there.
Yeah, I like the Gage. I like that.
Then he hit a wall.
I'm telling you, they get a good running back in that system, and I think they're going to be okay. If they bring in that Tennessee Titans kind of offense where there's more play action, run heavy, let's play ball that way, I think they could find success with that.
Me too.
I can't complain. I'm not going to be big on Matt Ryan next year. If he falls to me and I don't have a quarterback yet, sure. He's not a guy that I'm looking at as far as drafting or targeting, especially not in Dynasty. Because I think he may have 1 year left on his contract.
Shelf life.
And he's been talked about moving too and talking about reuniting with Kyle Shanahan in San Fran. He's been another one that's been mentioned.
I think he just looked slower this year. He did. Yeah. Like you could tell he's not Tom Brady. He's not eating his green beans like Patrick Mahomes. He's not the veggie man. Like he's not.
Don't care.
Yeah. 100% don't like him. 100% don't care. But I do care the fact that I do see a little bit of downside from Matt Ryan's production.
He could be replaced. Like this could be next year, could be the first year that he falls out. But again, the offense might get right and they might be efficient and they might put up Tannehill numbers 33-7.
I think you were saying that they're going to go out and possibly try to get Najee Harris. I think they're a candidate to go out and try to sign one of these quarterbacks.
What if one of the rookies?
It's something like what the Eagles did. They see a little bit of backing up from the Carson Wentz side of things and going out and getting Jalen Hurts before Carson Wentz looked bad. Well, hey, this is the time to do it when it's a decent quarterback class and these rookies actually look pretty good. who's to say that they don't go out and try to get like a Trey Lance and keep up with the rest of the league?
They could.
They're picking pretty high.
Zach Wilson too.
Yeah, Zach Wilson.
Mm.
Even what's the other guy's name? Mac Jones.
Yeah.
There's a couple decent quarterbacks where they have to take a shot, because when Matt Ryan does go down or he does take that shot, who do they got to back him up? I don't even know their backup quarterback.
Yeah, that speaks to his
Matt Schaub.
Yeah, Matt Schaub's still in the league. Hey, didn't he throw for 400 yards last year at some point? 2019. Yeah,
Matt Schaub
in 2019. Yeah, Matt Schaub. I'm pretty sure he threw for 400 and something yards last year.
Well, he threw for a total of 580 in 2019. So maybe
it was one huge game. Dead serious. Yeah, he had a monster game. One of the best games of the year by a quarterback.
But yeah, I don't see Matt Ryan repeating history again next year. I just don't see it. For me, I think he's on the tail end of his career. He'll probably finish as an Atlanta Falcon, and I don't advise him going somewhere else to try to continue like we've seen Brady do, Brett Favre, Peyton Manning. I don't think he's in that tier of quarterback competitiveness.
There's more cases of like Phillip Rivers failing in a place than there are of guys like Tom Brady succeeding when they go to a new place. Joe Montana didn't even succeed when he went to Kansas City. I mean, he did. He took him to a championship game, but still.
And I can see quarterbacks that didn't make it into the top 12 this year definitely getting in next year over Matt Ryan. You know, we have Matthew Stafford on a new team.
I love it.
We have Baker Mayfield, who took a really good step in the second half of the season.
And he gets OBJ back, yep.
Who else? We have
Dak for sure.
Joe Burrow. I'd like to see what he's got in his second season.
Correct.
First full season now.
And Trevor Lawrence, who's to say he can't play like Herbert did this year? So there is that one rookie who has the chance to
if anybody has a chance to do it, it's him. I'm not sure if the whole offense is going to be complete enough for him to do it. And hey, there's only 12 spots. So how many quarterbacks did we out of the top 12 did we turn around and say, hey, you know, yeah, I can see him back next year. Hey, I can see him back this year. You know, so the bottom two, Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan,
may be out.
They may be out.
And Tannehill may be out.
Tannehill may be out. Hey, maybe Tom Brady is out.
Maybe he doesn't need to do as much. Maybe they do re-sign Leonard Fournette and go with a two-headed rushing monster and just run the ball all season.
You know, and obviously we don't take into consideration any injuries. We don't knock players for their injuries first and foremost. But those guys that got injured, like I know Dak was on a career season.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was playing for a contract, which he probably will be playing for again. I believe they go out and franchise tag him again.
That's ugly.
Isn't it? That's
ugly. Yeah. So on that note, that's the guys that we're gonna, those are the top 12. Do we have anyone else that you think might make that leap and take that jump? You got a dark horse guy. You got a Jalen Hurts play.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. Swanson.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts. That would be my dark horse guy that could make an appearance in the top 12. What about you?
He was on that pace. Yeah,
he was on that pace.
Yeah, he's one of them for me. He's one of those guys that I think could.
I would definitely throw Matthew Stafford in the ring.
Yeah,
on the Rams offense, going in with the Sean McVay offensive scheme. They're going to create plays for him. He's a fast learner. He's a smart quarterback. He was drafted number 1 overall in 2008 for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Clemson guy, man.
Listen, I like that, but my guy actually, dark horse, the same one that I had for this year. I think I'm going to go into the season saying the same thing. He's going to finish in the top 12, top 10, and that's Daniel Jones.
I like that.
You can't have Saquon Barkley and not do well. Like once that offensive line is right and he's back and he's healthy, they're going to add another weapon or two in the offseason. I know they are.
They're going to have to.
Yeah, they're going to have to. And I think Shepard's going to shine out of the slot this year. If they get a true number 1 or a true number 2 there with Slayton, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, if they get another wide receiver opposite Slayton on the other side for the outside, move Shepard into the slot, then yes, I can see Daniel Jones taking another step. Who knows what they're going to do with Evan Ingram? They could move on from him as well. He's up on, I believe he's on a contract year, or his contract's definitely tradable at this point. We don't know what they're going to do in the draft, and that'll really put in at place everything that we're talking about now. Like we're foreshadowing for the 2021 season. We can't put our thumbs on anything right now, but I like that dark horse, because I'm a Giants fan. So
I like this dark horse right here.
And I'll also add in. Sorry to cut you off, Mr. Swanson.
No.
Finish out. I will mention that Eli Manning is back in the building for the New York Giants. And what is he doing? Player consultation, a.k.a. Daniel Jones's tutor. So if anybody that can tutor Daniel Jones to get into the top 12 for fantasy, it's Eli Manning.
I think he's got a shot to do it. I just like the fact that Saquon's there and he can do play action and make it.
Yeah.
Put it on
changes the whole-
Saquon.
I mean, but it really does. It changes the whole conversation.
Yeah, another year in Garrett's offense. I think they'll do good things.
I like this right here with Taysom Hill or Winston. I think it is Winston that's going to win out that job. And I talked about him earlier. He was QB3, man, and he was going crazy.
I know.
2 years,
I love Taysom Hill. I have a soft spot. I love him.
I know.
I can see that being a crazy, crazy thing happening.
Taysom Hill's 30 plus, didn't look great throwing the ball. Jameis is a number
I thought he
one
looked
overall pick. You know what I mean? And he's been the QB3 before and threw for 5,000 friggin' yards. I don't expect them to do that, but he could be very efficient in that offense. They still have Michael Thomas, dude. You know what I mean? Like, they're still going to be Alvin Kamara. Like, if he can get it in the second year and he gets that start, I like him all day in fantasy. I like the value of Jameis Winston.
And shout out to FFIMBQ from the Tilt Dynasty podcast. He works over there with us at Join Our Circle _
cool.
on Twitter. That's Fantasy Intervention. Circle, baby. Let's go.
The circle's growing. I love it.
But Taysom Hill or Winston,
Always.
potentially, I think it's Winston.
It probably is. You're probably right. It is going to be Winston, but I don't like it, and I
think it's going to be a great. I think it's going to be a great preseason.
No catch up.
I think it's going to be a preseason battle for sure. We're going to be talking about this in August. Where who do you think was better in the? And I think they do play preseason games this year.
Vincent, I'll tell you.
Maybe not 4, but
maybe not 4,
yeah, but they'll play a couple.
But yeah,
I'll tell you why I like Taysom in fantasy, because in the league did I win this league? Oh no, I lost.
No, the champ is here.
That was a different league.
You did win one league, didn't you?
I did win
17.
Yeah, I won that league, and I think Taysom was in there too. Anyway, everybody went for a mad dash when Breeze went down to get Winston, and I didn't. I held back, and then after everybody used all their fab on Jameis Winston, and then they named Hill as a starter, and I just picked him up for 0 fab and had him for the next 3 weeks, and he carried me through 3 weeks. That's why I love Taysom Hill, and I liked watching him too. What I don't like is that Taysom Hill kills Alvin Kamara's value, so that's the only reason why I wouldn't like to see him. Because I have Kamara in dynasty places, and Taysom Hill kills Kamara's value in dynasty.
I think Jameis Winston will kill Alvin Kamara's value as well.
He will.
If he's down there as a gunslinger wanting to throw the
still
ball
more
downfield more.
That's what
there's still more legs than
unless they
Breeze
see
has.
Alvin Kamara as more of a wheel route.
That's what I mean. They're going to have that's going to be his crutch. That's how they're going to get him to stop throwing the interceptions. Don't force it.
Throw it to Kamara.
Check it down.
Yeah, maybe.
Check it down to the dude with 80 plus catches 4 years in a row.
Might be a thing where you might want to start
Michael Thomas
and Alvin Kamara.
Michael Thomas coming in injured. He was injured playing through the second half of the season.
They still have one of the best offensive lines.
No touchdowns.
Too, so,
well, they're going to be fighting. They're going to fight some salary cap. I know Drew Brees is probably on his way out. We can almost agree. We can all agree on that. He's probably gone, but they're still going to have to do a lot against that dead cap that they're sitting at up against 2021.
Yeah, a lot of defensive players to sign to.
Yeah, they're not going to have the same team next year, and I think they may not be in playoff contention.
You give me Kamara and you give me Michael Thomas and a dude that threw for 5,000, and I'll take it. That's all. I'm taking a shot.
All right, gentlemen. I think that about wraps it up.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for everybody that was joining into the show today.
Thank you guys.
Come back next week. We will definitely we're going to tilt right into the top 12 running backs, man, because I know for certain that the top 12 running backs don't always repeat. So that's going to be a great show and a little bit more controversy than the quarterbacks here.
Big time.
There'll be more turnover. 6 or 7 guys per year are new on that running back list. It's kind of nuts.
It's going to be a fun show.
I guess I'll start out the intros, guys, if you don't mind. I'm James Crease. You can find me at the FF_chef on Twitter. Just a quick reminder, tune in to tomorrow night on YouTube at the Fantasy Intervention channel. I host the Blitz Trivia Show, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday nights with my co-host, Nate Polvo.
Great
stuff. Fantasy football, regular football, history, trivia. If you're a football nerd and you love trivia, come join in. It's totally interactive. You can write in your answers on the chat, have a good time, have some laughs. And we have some big stars. I believe Bob Gilchrist from the Dynasty Trade Calculator is coming on, and John Bosch. So those are two great names in the fantasy industry. And I was talking to Bob last night, and he told me, make the questions extra hard because John Bosch will be mad if they are not hard. So, yeah, so I made sure I did that for them. It's going to be a great time. Check us out, 7 p.m. Eastern, over at Fantasy Intervention. And speaking of Fantasy Intervention, go and check out my Aaron Jones article for fantasyintervention.com.
For sure.
Great free agency piece over there. And shout out to the Circle, man.
_.
Yeah.
Don't forget the underscore.
Yeah. Well, Juan?
Yeah. Juan Carlos Pena. You can find me at FF Juan of a Kind. I'm also at Join Our Circle _ with Fantasy Intervention. The chef and I are about to record right now with Corey Spala, aka C. FF, and we're going to record the case study where we tell you players to buy, players to sell, and dynasty value. Also have an article on Fantasy Intervention about AJ Dillon and his doppelganger. And yeah, interesting stuff. But that show that the chef is talking about tomorrow, like, he's underselling it. It's the most fun on the internet right now. Like, seriously, everybody's doing all their pods and they're doing their thing, and everybody's doing great stuff and putting out great content. But that show is the most fun.
It's a little different.
It is. It's like Jeopardy meets football knowledge, and it's interaction, and you get to do it as the fan, like as the viewer. You get to, throw your answers in the chat, and maybe they'll use your answer, and they'll need your help to get through it, and it makes it really fun, the interaction part, which I miss from the Sunday Tilt, because we don't have the Sunday Tilt until September. So
yeah,
that's kind of a cool
it's
way
coming though.
It is, but that's kind of a cool way to interact with everybody. So yeah, check out everything that we do at thetiltisreal.com, and go to fantasyintervention.com as well. They have great articles every single day. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.
And yeah, like these guys said, definitely tune into to the show tomorrow night. The Blitz is so much fun. I mean, you guys already said it, but it really is. I can't stress enough how much fun that show is. My name is you can find me on Twitter at FFJohnJAW. I almost said my real name.
It's okay if you do.
My name's JP.
Hey,
everybody.
My man.
Who I think a lot of people actually in the circle _.
Think your name is John.
Think my first name is John, and I think that's awesome.
With a W.
With a W.
Hilarious.
And I think like, oh no, his name's like John, like Dawn, but like with a J. So I'm hoping that maybe they don't see this part of the show, and that just keeps going. And then one day they'll be like, wait, your name is actually John. So anyway, you can find me on Twitter at FFJohnJAW and Swanson. I do sound for Join Our Circle _ and if anyone out there needs a drop or a sound clip for not just a podcast, for whatever it is, yeah. All right.
Let me get some of those applications.
Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm holding. I've been lazy on something, and Chef's gonna kill me.
I'm never gonna kill you, my friend.
No, I know.
I won't let you live it down.
He won't let me live it down. That's it.
I won't let you live it down. That's for sure.
That's for sure. But other than that, whatever you guys, anybody would need, I'd be happy to create a little musical jingle or something for you. Just send me a direct message on Twitter, and yeah, other than that, it was a great show.
No. There's one more thing, dude, and you're holding yourself back, and I'm going to step in here. Go out and follow him at Crow, I believe it is.
It is Crow, CROW, like the bird.
Yeah, and what's your Twitter handle on that? Because that needs to get pumped out a little bit. And speaking of underselling, Mr. Swanson underselling his whole production. Live performance this past Super Bowl show for the Rum Boys pregame show. It was awesome. Him and his partner, Cody, totally ripped it up. Great music, great guys. We're all friends. We all used to work together. Hey, okay, Crow, okay, at Twitter. So
that's our Twitter handle. Yeah,
go ahead, check them out. Great stuff from those two guys. Mr. Swanson, you're just killing it, bro. You're one of the best unfound gems in the industry. People just don't know it yet, man. And that's how it's supposed to be. All right. So that wraps up episode 40, tilting through the top 12 quarterbacks. Check us out next week for our top 12 running back tilts. And you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you later.
Sean, can't we keep that 40 on? Go. So 40.
Peace.
So 40. Lordy, look who's 40.
Thanks for tuning in to the Tilt is Real Fantasy Podcast. Like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Check out our website at thetiltisreal.com for more great fantasy football content. We'll catch you guys next time on The Tilt is Real.